Okay, well, let's see. So we are currently producing a live stream. We have people embedded with a large protest in D.C. at the Capitol building. BMC Moo's covering the Senate thing. I almost rated in. Oh, okay. Well, hang on, Fraser. We've got... So people always ask what it is that act.tv does.
Oh, nice.
Well, here you go. This is what act.tv does. So this is live. This is at the lobby of the Capitol building in D.C., where there's going to be a planned civil disobedience both inside, and then there is another larger protest scheduled for outside in a couple of hours. And we're not exactly sure how it's going to go down today. 25 minutes till the trial resumes? Okay, thanks. So at some point, they're going to have to try to clear this foyer for when the for when the trial resumes. So at that point, I think it's either going to be people get arrested or people literally get pushed out. And then, like I said, there's going to be another protest outside. And then in between all that today, we're also going to be covering the Medicare for All roundtable with Roseanne Tabarro and people from United Nurses Union. So we got like a jam-packed day today.
So this is live right now.
Yeah, so we have 3 people there with cameras and LU-200 backpacks, and then Brad is on the back. He's mixing this all through a switchboard, and then I'm merely just mirroring it and putting it up here. But this is what we do normally. People are always like, "What's act.tv? Who are you guys?" I'm like, this is us. We do broadcast television quality live streams of protests, political events, rallies, socially significant events that are happening. This is sort of the bread and butter of what act.tv does. And I think right now on the Facebook page we're running 4,700 concurrent viewers.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So so this should probably pick back up soon. So I'll turn it down a little bit. So Rebeccca, have you been keeping up with the trial? I know this morning Kelly said actually that Lev Parnas was going to be in the gallery today during the Senate hearing. But did you keep up? Did you watch what was going on yesterday?
No, I really haven't been keeping up with it since it's been in the Senate. I watched some of it, I watched the House hearings, but I really have not been keeping up with this part of it.
Okay. So real quick, hold on. Not sure if they're on location or restreaming someone else. So no, Frazo, this is us. We have, like I said, we have 3 people in the Capitol building, and they all have cameras and LU-200 backpacks, which they basically bond you into a portion of the localized cell stream, and it kind of like anchors it down so that you can get like a full robust signal even when you have tens of thousands of people banging on nearby cell towers, which is why our streams usually look really good. So this is what we do. Look at all those.
James, would it be possible to turn the volume down for the stream because it cancels out your voice?
No, it only does in your headset. Sorry. Yeah, there's a double mic thing you have to remember. So it's bad for you, I'm sorry.
So is there any way to fix it?
Hold on a second. Because, see, I have this all in an audio loop. The other thing I could do for you is I can turn myself up for you, and then you can turn all the volume down in your monitor. How does that sound?
I could still mostly hear the live stream.
Okay, now do you hear me well over the live stream?
Yeah.
Okay, then
the
we're good.
The live stream is still pretty loud, though.
Right, I can't affect that volume going to you because it's the same volume that's going into the feed.
Okay.
So if I turn it down for you, I have to turn it down for everybody. Literally.
Okay.
Yeah. So, is that doable? Like, if I put myself higher in your monitor and then you lower the whole thing, is that okay?
It sounds better. I mean, they're not really saying anything, so I don't know how much the audio...
Yeah, I have it on. It's very faint in the mix. Like, going out to people in the stream, the volume's only like 20%. I'll kick it up when something happens, though. Real quick, softly spoken, quick hi, and thank you, act.tv, for being rad. Oh, thank you.
Aw, hey, how are you?
Hey, I was going to say good morning, but good early afternoon, Rocketansky. Good to see you. I caught some of your stream yesterday. So, yeah, I'm always glad. Like when I see like the best thing for me is when I see other people who broadcast and then they come in and like they rap with us. Like I don't know. I just find it to be like a great ecosystem. Where people who broadcast, they don't just like broadcast and then log off and go, I'll be back in 20 hours. Like most of the people who broadcast seem to be like really into, in the community and like helping out other broadcasters. I fucking love Twitch.
Yeah, I was thinking about Twitch today, this morning, and about how somebody compared it to public access TV, which
Yeah,
I think is a really nice comparison. It's like the public access for younger people.
yeah,
So
no.
nobody has a TV anymore. I mean, a lot of people don't really watch public access anymore.
Does public access even exist anymore?
Oh yeah,
It does.
definitely. Oh
But
yeah,
you
yeah.
literally,
Manhattan Neighborhood Network, MNN. Yeah, and many in a lot of major cities, it's still around. Um,
like I know in New York we'd pick up some local channel, but you'd have to have like rabbit ear antennas on your TV to pick it up. Oh yeah, so they're kicking them out of the Capitol building. This is rapidly going to turn into a street protest.
mhm.
For the record, I loves me a street protest.
Yeah, they're
Nothing,
doing civil disobedience, I think.
nothing gets
Like
people's
people,
attention quicker than shutting shit down. So I'm a big fan.
people are prepared to be arrested for this action.
Oh, nice. So,
Yeah, at least that's my understanding. They say civil disobedience, so I assume that means people are going to disrupt and be arrested.
when I hear civil disobedience, I usually think of something in the range of more than blocking a sidewalk, but less than smashy smashy.
Yeah.
I think that's usually like a fair like middle zone
Yep.
for it. Um, so if anybody in the chat stream has like sort of like a good article or a good sort of like up to date primer on the trial stuff, and you might have it and want to put it in so we can check it out. Rebecca and I have been working feverishly on Operation Corn Pop and breaking down state delegate numbers, trying to figure out what the hell's actually going on with the election. And much like a lot of people, we've kind of I won't say tuned out the impeachment, but like I watch people like on Twitch and they watch the impeachment 10 hours a day and I'm just boggled. Like I can't do it. It's too much. Like the circus and all the bullshit around it is so all encompassing that I literally do not have the bandwidth to like consume it all in real time because it's literally that much effort. Oh.
It's also, for me, it's like we know what's going to happen, right? We know how this is going to end.
I mean, unless they're going to flip like 30 Republican senators, like,
yeah.
So
it's really hard to watch and to imagine that something other than Trump getting off, out of this impeachment.
I mean, I can't imagine. I can't imagine he ends up catching anything harder than maybe not even a sanction. What the hell do they call it when you don't get impeached, but they want to officially say you did a bad thing? Censure? Yeah.
Censured?
Yeah. Maybe he'll get some kind of like censure, but it's not like again, if they were going to impeach him, they could have impeached him 3 years ago on emoluments, and they just didn't do it because the one thing that the elite understand is that you never go after another member of the club for their grift, because then your grift will possibly end up in the limelight. So like, since that didn't happen, they had to wait 3 years and came up with this, and I have no doubt that Trump did shitty stuff and he's totally like qualifies for impeachment. I just figured this was a really weird hill to choose to die on for it. Like,
they knew all along that they didn't have the numbers, right? And like Nancy Pelosi was like, didn't want to impeach during the emoluments. all of that, and he's done some pretty like outright illegal things. And Nancy Pelosi was like, no, 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 no. And then this stuff happened with Ukraine, and it was kind of like she couldn't not go forward with the impeachment. But they've known all along that they don't have the numbers for this, no matter how outright illegal it is.
So I actually have. So hold on, and I just want to make sure for everybody out there, because I have to use a two-tiered audio on this. So right now I have the audio of the protesters down at maybe like a third of mine and Rebecca's volume. So please let me know if it turns into a garbled mess. I can only put half of it through my monitor. But like I said, we want to be able to show you the protest in real time.
And James, you and I have talked about the role of protest and how protest is actually effective. However, and I just wish that like we could have these numbers of protesters out here for sustained periods of time, because that's when people get results, right? It's yes, protest is important, and like having one day, of course, sends a message, but things actually get accomplished when it's like sustained protest every single day. Tens of thousands of people out on the streets or causing a disruption.
I mean, look, that's where you get into the hardcore, like, Mario Salvo stuff, you know, where you literally have to have hordes of people throwing themselves against the pulleys and the wheels and the levers of the machine. And just, it's the only time the machine responds is when you grind the machine to a halt. And you don't need to use a massive amount of force or violence to do that. No. You just need organization, solidarity, and endurance. If you have those three things, you can bring any system or any machine to a grinding halt, regardless of your other resources or amount of power that you wield as an individual, comparative to how much power, you know, tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of people working in unison do. So what's the protest about? These are people protesting. Protesters at Senate building call out GOP cover-up. A lot of this has to do with, you know, when they ran through the rules. And McConnell and friends, they basically were just like, no witnesses. No evidence. We're just not going to allow any of this. And so the trial just becomes like a week-long farce. And hey, I mean, they have the rules to do it, just like, you know, the House had the rules last month or, you know, the month before. And this is politics. This is how our lovely machine works. It was set up to do this. So I got something for you here, Rebecca, since I got this playing in the background.
Okay.
This stuff needs to intensify if Bernie wins. It will take significant, incredible public pressure on the Senate for them to pass it. I do not disagree. I mean, I would love to see Bernie win. And if he does, there's going to be a whole hell of a lot of uphill struggle for him to do a lot of stuff. And it won't just be, oh, Bernie gets in office, now we can go sit on our asses and collect our socialist checks and just chill. And, you know, that is most assuredly not the case. Like, God forbid, everything falls into place and Bernie Sanders somehow won and the Dems won the Senate. That would still be the beginning. That's not like the end. Like, that's something you can celebrate for half a day. And then you're going to have to get right back out into the street in your districts and in your states. And, because anytime something federally is going to change, states go out and they launch a whole bunch of crap. Like, after women's suffrage, when women won the right to autonomy, and then the first thing that happened was, like, all the states individually passed a state law requiring a marriage license so that free and autonomous women would not be allowed to marry freed slaves. So, just capturing, like, some power in the federal government does not just mean, poof, you win. It's not the I win button. It's not like the magic wand you wave and just like that, everything was fixed. Like, that's not a thing. That doesn't happen. Hang on. So you want to roll chat real quick and let me bring something up I was going to bring up for us on this, Rebecca?
Yeah.
Give me one sec.
Another thing that is happening in Airboss is, like, the establishment Democrats are doing everything in their power to prevent Bernie Sanders from winning the primary. So Tom Perez just like basically announced the committees, or like who is in charge of the DNC during the convention, and they're all like corporate elite establishment centrist people, who many of them who have spoken out and done things to undermine and attack Bernie. So they're stacking the field against him to prevent him from winning. Slay is 78. I'm skeptical. I still think the elitists look down and think, let them eat cake. No doubt. I mean, I agree. The only real power.
Here we go. Okay, so let me bring this up real quick. A friend of mine wrote this. He was actually a journalist. He wrote for The Guardian, for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution in Atlanta. He's legit. He does great work. So this is something I caught this on his feed this morning when I woke up and I was checking for news for the trial. So the Senate is not conducting a trial. We can call it that if we like, but it's not. The Senate is simply affirming the politics of America. It is demonstrating, plainly, that neither morality nor the law matters more to our leaders than fidelity to power. When the Senate votes to acquit Trump, and we know they will, without so much as a censure, I hope it puts an end to the idea that some institutional structures must be protected in America in the name of building consensus with Republicans. Do you know why Bernie Sanders is doing so well in the polls? Ironically, it's for the same reason Trump was doing so well in the polls. He is a vote to blow it all up, and I am now growing sympathetic to this view. No prisoner politics from here out. Their heads will explode. Ignore it. Stop caring about what immoral people think about defenses against their crimes. Boom. That was like one of the dankest things I've read in weeks.
No, it's so. I keep seeing this on Facebook, right? Only 53% of Bernie Sanders supporters are saying they're going to vote blue no matter who. The reason for that is that, and Charles spoke to this earlier today in the stream, a lot of Bernie Sanders supporters are not Democrats. They're just not. They're independents. They're real leftists, like anarchists or communists or socialists. They don't generally care about electoral politics, seriously. And they see Bernie Sanders as this anomaly who is not part of the system. And they see him as a chance to, I don't know about blow it up. I mean, I think that rhetoric,
No, I didn't say that Bernie's going to blow it up. I think his point is that people are just like, fuck it, let's just blow it all up. So I think it's worth speaking to like where people's heads are at now after watching this whole shit circus for 3 years. Where and again the same people who voted for Trump, minus the 25% or so of America that's just flat out horribly racist and that's why they voted for him. But the remainder of the people who voted for Trump, the majority of them were people who were like, fuck it, this guy will blow it all up.
Yeah.
That's why he's the outsider. He's going to drain the swamp. He's going to defeat the deep state. All of those are just like crazy white people code for blow it all up.
Well, I would say it's not that crazy, right? Because anarchists say similar shit, which they say things like burn down the American plantation, right? Which is similar. But I like to say, so it doesn't sound as scary to some people who are maybe not used to that or whatever, is like disrupt the status quo. Let's just say that. They both do that, Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump. And I as like I know a lot of people, and I'm sure you do too, James, who like don't vote because they don't think that their vote matters. They don't even really participate in electoral politics because they don't believe in electoral politics, right? So they try to harness their power in community organizing, in protest, in different ways, right? Um, Different sorts of activism to challenge what we have now. So this is a really important moment and time, and I think you know it's just it's frustrating, I think, to see people who are supporting like the safer bet, right? Still, I don't get it. But I also know that, and you've talked about this, and I agree with this, like people aren't born radical, right? We all learn.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
I was an apolitical brotato chip for 30 years, and then my entry into, you know, where I'm at now literally began with like the shittiest place like radicalism can be born, which was listening to Ron Paul videos. Like that's what made me non-apolitical. That's what brought me off the political fence like a decade ago was Ron Paul videos, because he spoke to, I mean, okay, minus the whole wackadoodle cookie and libertarian ideology, which, if you're not political, you don't really know and understand that. As just like a disaffected, apolitical, you know, run of the mill dude, to hear a politician, somebody who is, quote, within the system, like flat out just say how horrible the system was and like list all the reasons why it sucked, to me, I
yeah,
was like, oh my God, I always thought all that shit, and this guy just validated it. And the light bulb was like, ding, and it went on. You know, now if you met me now and I didn't tell you that 10 years ago I, you know, became non apolitical because of Ron Paul, you know, you'd laugh because I'm a smashy, smashy capital A anarchist. Like, so no, nobody's born radical, and everybody's traveling a path. Like, there are very few people who are like where they are now is where they were 10 years ago or where they'll be 10 years from now. Um, and
yeah,
we tend to, especially on the left, we tend to take this very hard line view of people, and we view them like in the moment and go, oh well, this is just somebody who's, you know, wearing a knitted vagina hat and walking around with a bunch of women. They're not radical. Blah blah blah. Your opinion doesn't count. Like, and that's like being a shitty person and being a shitty radical. Like, so I try not to poop on people for, you know, for entry level protests. Like this is where ideas are formed. Like leaving your house for the first time and going to the first protest you go to when you don't know anybody is extremely awkward and socially daunting. Like I remember when I saw Occupy Wall Street, and I watched videos online for weeks, and you know, before I ever even tried to find where the fuck the park was, where everybody was, and then go down there, and then I just kind of like lurked and walk around the edges for a few days because I was like, this is fucking bizarre. Like, it's just the whole thing's awkward. So like, if people are going to take that first step and they get off their couch and they get over that awkwardness and they go out and say, hey, I'm going to stand up for something, that's the first step. And I'm not going to be the one to, you know, look down my radical nose at them from Mount Radical and, you know, play
mm-hmm.
who's the most leftist, because that's a loser's game. It just was. Brotato chip is my new favorite term. Thanks, Portugal the boy. Happy to help. Brotato chip.
Yeah. James, I agree with you, you know, and I've seen a lot of like newer people who their first protest was like after Trump got elected, right? And I think that's fine and everything. But I think the frustrating part sometimes is that like I remember going to a protest after Trump was elected and there were maybe like 15 radical people and like tens of thousands of more centrist, kind of like still with her folks. And they were doing things like thanking the police officers and like stopping. Oh yeah,
I
no,
know.
let's
That's always the cringiest part. That's the one spot where I really want to take out my radical shillelagh and beat reformers over the head with it, and just. But I don't. But
yeah,
yeah,
and
that's the
doing
one. That's the
things like
toughest. Ugh.
correcting some of the chants, you know, to make them be not as radical. And I remember, oh, this was more recently at a protest Jocelyn and I streamed in Philly. Some of the chants were like against the police. Yeah, like I don't remember.
That's for you, dude.
No,
Snaps.
one of the chants that they were saying was no good cops in a racist system, no good cops in a racist system, or like fuck the police, or, you know, cops and the Klan go hand in hand. And it was led by a man who was Latinx and a black woman who they were both like radical as fuck, leading this amazing march, like without a permit, down the streets of Philly in protest of Burke's detention center. And there was a white man who was in the crowd, more like kind of centrist, and he apologized to the cops. And he was like, "Oh, sorry, don't take it personally." And I just, it, I gave him like a really dirty look. Because I couldn't do anything because I had the camera and I was streaming, but like that shit pisses me off, and it happens all the time. He was like, "Oh, don't take it personally, cop." Like,